allow me to set the scene for you. It's 2007. Earlier in the year, the very first iPhone has been released. Rock hero Keith Richards is fighting accusations that he smoked his late father's ashes, and Bleeding Love by Leona Lewis is #1 in the charts. In the gaming world, people are raving about an amazing new puzzle game called Portal, and Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare has just made the bold step to a more modern setting. In amongst all these remarkably dated memories, you're certain to have another thing knocking about somewhere in your brain. A link between music, technology, and gaming all at once. This is, of course, the rise of the humble rhythm game, more specifically the shooting star success that was Guitar Hero. But when was the last time that name actually crossed your mind? For a few years there, it was possibly the biggest game in the world, and then it disappeared into obscurity, like immediately. So, I'm Amy from WhatCulture, and let's go on a journey to find out what the happened to Guitar Hero. By the aforementioned 2007, Guitar Hero was on its third release, Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock, and at this point it was absolutely in its prime. Publicity around the title was pumping, with people rushing to try their hand at the trickiest new tracks on offer, and this third entry into the franchise was breaking records too, with Activision claiming that it was the first single video game to sell more than $1 billion at retail. The first entry into the Guitar Hero franchise was initially released in 2005 for PlayStation 2, and it was not expected to become the behemoth that it eventually morphed into. Out of seemingly nowhere, the game started raking in millions, with critics and players alike declaring their love for its simple premise and charming execution. It's safe to say when developers Harmonix were looking at their game initially, they weren't seeing it launching a billion-dollar franchise, a million sequels and rip-offs, and an expansion across multiple consoles and devices. So let's talk popularity and cash. The thing about capitalism is that one business will see someone else making a lot of money and go, hey, I want in on that. They say capitalism breeds innovation, but I think they are wrong. Because Guitar Hero had become a confident sleeper hit and was just seemingly forever on the up, countless other developers and companies hopped on the rhythm game trend. The biggest rival to Guitar Hero was probably Rock Band, a game developed by the same people that brought us the first Guitar Hero game, Harmonix. Harmonix may have developed the first Guitar Hero, but it was published by Red Octane, and in 2006 Red Octane was purchased by Activision, whilst Harmonix was bought by MTV Networks. Because of this changing of hands, Harmonix was no longer involved in the Guitar Hero franchise. That instead came under a branch of Activision called Neversoft, and rather fittingly they moved on to Rock Band. It's not surprising then that Activision went on to criticize Rock Band as being basically a cheap rip-off of the ever-loved original Guitar Hero. The obvious response to this is, well, yeah, obviously, but that's neither here nor there. The point was that two huge companies were now occupying the very popular space of rhythm games, and many more were about to join. And here we encounter the first step in Guitar Hero's walk into the pit of irrelevance: oversaturation. If it wasn't already intense enough having two companies vie for the attention of the exact same audience, those companies were constantly pushing forth even more content to compete with each other and beg for audience preference, and obviously audience's money. Rock Band got about 1 million releases of different versions, each one offering a new plastic instrument and also becoming slightly more specific music-wise. We had a Lego Rock Band, AC/DC, The Beatles, and Green Day specific releases, the whole shebang, and the whole time, Guitar Hero was doing pretty much the same thing. Neither of the franchises seemed to have a distinct identity, and this comes back down to those famous plastic instruments, and the sad fact that after a while they kind of get old. There was a DJ-themed rehash of the concept, as well as a more poppy band hero, and I mean the list just goes on. In the peak of the craze, some families had a whole band's worth of imitation kit crammed into their living rooms, and whilst this was one of the main things that led to Guitar Hero's underdog success in the first place, the charm can only be spread so far when what was once a unique selling point is everywhere. If one style of game is becoming particularly popular, that doesn't necessarily mean it's doomed to fail. I mean, look at the rise of the Battle Royale genre, and the huge numbers of people still playing PUBG, Overwatch, and Fortnite, despite the fact that they are well past their prime times. What's needed to stay relevant though is innovation, and there's only so much you can innovate within the premise of Guitar Hero or Rock Band. Looking from the outside, it certainly seemed like an endless goldmine with pretty much no setbacks, but the truth was that behind the scenes, and also increasingly in the public eye, the music industry was not happy. Another thing that always haunts the sight of a big payday is the threat of legal action from all sides for all reasons, justified or not. Where Guitar Hero and its contemporaries were cashing in hugely on artists' music and likenesses, said artists, their labels and their estates were becoming more and more unhappy with this. Seeing how much was being made from the games, Warner Music decided to make public jabs at Guitar Hero, demanding that they begin paying higher licensing fees for the music they used. The amount of money being paid to the music industry, even though their games are entirely dependent on the content we own and control, is far too small, claimed the then Warner Bros. CEO Edgar Bronfman. He demanded that the game's creators start paying more money, otherwise Warner would boycott them and stop any licensing agreements in the future. In response to this, MTV, the owners of Rock Band, started boycotting Warner instead. It all looked rather petty and ridiculous to any non-concerned party, but it was just symptomatic of the wider upset going on between the gaming and music industries. The thing is that what was being paid wasn't exactly chump change, with the Los Angeles Times claiming that each song cost at least somewhere around $35,000 to license. Given that songs featured in the games were in turn making money from iTunes and other purchases due to their elevated exposure, many in the gaming industry thought the suggestion of having to fork out even more money for licensing was borderline offensive. Some even thought that artists should be paying them for the privilege of featuring their music. When Activision Blizzard finally disbanded its operation and called it quits with Guitar Hero, one of the main reasons cited by the company was continued declines in the music genre. It's the age-old paradigm that you have to spend money to make money, but spending money becomes a little bit more tense when the whole world is undergoing a global financial crisis. It's boring to bring up the credit crunch, I know, but I'll make it quick. Plus, we'd be fools not to acknowledge the drastic impact that 2008's global financial crash had on consumers and thus the games industry. By the late 2000s, sales were missing their targets hard, and it was starting to become incredibly obvious that the genre's popularity was taking a nosedive. Everyone was struggling financially, and I think it's no big leap to assume that families who previously had loads of disposable income to spend on yet another shabby plastic instrument were then having to reevaluate their priorities. The first Guitar Hero retailed for $69.99, complete with one guitar controller. Now, you may think that this doesn't actually sound too bad, given that lots of games these days are about £50, $60-ish, but you need to consider that inflation has happened since then, and in real-time terms right now, that's more like $100. And when you think about it, shelling out $100 for something that's not really got top-of-the-line graphics or endless replayability, you're gonna start thinking it through. With Guitar Hero bringing in lawsuits and bad faith from the music industry, being pitted against and alongside a million other practically identical games, and also not making as much money as it once did, it made sense to just cut it. Following some very disappointing figures that saw game sales drop by over 50%, Activision shut down Red Octane, and by 2011 they put the whole project on hiatus, allegedly after cancelling a Guitar Hero 7 game. The key word here is hiatus, because later in 2015, Activision boldly tried to make Guitar Hero happen again. This was not, as they would soon find out, a very good move. They released Guitar Hero Live, a reboot of the classic IP but with a whole new controller. This was their attempt at innovation, getting rid of the old 5-button guitar design and replacing it with a complex 6-button 3-fretted bit of kit. Their hope was that they could get their big revival with the advent of a new console generation, but they failed to account for the fact that, frankly, their whole plan was just not very good. The appetite already wasn't there for the kind of game being offered, and so the nail in the coffin of the reboot was the ridiculous monetization model. Some elements of the reboot were cool. People enjoyed the new controller for the most part and appreciated the efforts behind the Guitar Hero TV section, a part of the game that regularly introduced new music. This wasn't enough to make up for the bad pay-to-play situation though. People were mostly upset with the fact that they regularly had to grind to earn enough points to unlock the one song they actually wanted to play in GHTV, with the game offering a way to bypass this by using real money. Even then, there was no way to permanently unlock the songs you liked, obviously in hopes that you would just keep paying to skip to them. All this aside though, fundamentally the heyday of the plastic instrument was over. No matter how much they tried to design a controller that you wouldn't be ashamed to have in your living room, they were fighting a losing battle. Now, it may be a long time since any of us have thought about Guitar Hero, but I can almost guarantee that more recently you've seen a slight uptick in the amount of rhythm games on your radar. Guitar Hero and Rock Band, as well as all their semi-identical brethren, are now long outdated, but their spirit and style has been revived as of late as VR gaming has been on the rise. If you're an avid user of TikTok, then chances are you've seen your fair share of Beat Saber, whether that's people playing it or regular adverts for it. With other titles including Pistol Whip and Synth Rider, we're starting to see an appetite in the mainstream again for rhythm-based games. Unsurprisingly though, the rise in interest is thanks to a serious change and innovation in the genre's output. What eventually killed Guitar Hero at its core was a failure to innovate in favour of flooding a saturated market until the cash ran dry. Now, with everyone exhausted and uninterested on that take on it, it's time for something new, and these virtual reality offerings certainly fit that criteria. The important thing now with rhythm games in VR is to make sure that it's not the only thing we're seeing, as it's not controversial to say that the market is so far lacking in diverse, quality titles. Hopefully we won't see a repeat of the Guitar Hero arc with the new generation of music-driven, rhythm-hitting games, but only time will tell. Honestly though, are you saying that tomorrow, if Guitar Hero released a VR immersive version of it, you wouldn't want to play it? Because I think I would. Maybe we've come full circle. Maybe we're going for it again. But on that note, we've reached the end of this video looking at what the f happened to Guitar Hero. Did you play Guitar Hero? What did you think of it? Why do you think it died? Let us know in the comments down below, and remember to check out WhatCulture for more lists and articles like this every single day. As always, I've been Amy from WhatCulture, and I'll catch you next time.